Our next speaker is Jérôme Noailly. Well, as you may know, he's a full professor here at the Universitat Pompeu Fabra. He's a research leader in biomechanics and mechanobiology laboratory. Well, he's my boss as well. Focusing on theoretical modeling and computational methods applied to systemic exploration of human disease. He will discuss the significance of demonstrated impact through data and storytelling, so that by the end of this session you may have a comprehensive understanding of the tool needed to write proposals or also fundings. So, well, nice.
Okay, thank you, Stefano, for the nice introduction. So I prefer to stand up when I'm presenting. Basically this is a very high-level presentation. Not high-level is meaning that it's you need to be well-educated to understand what I will say. High-level is the meaning that's very generic. And a bit explaining what it takes then to secure funds in order to do research. And whether you're a junior researcher or whether you're trying then to consolidate yourself as a researcher. So a bit my profile, and so that you can see, contextualize a little bit what I will tell. Thank you. So that you can contextualize what I will tell, and then according to my own profile. So I started with molecular biology, then I evolved to material science, acoustics, and then finally computational biomechanics. So that's progressively then involved to multi-scale modeling, coupled problems, systems biology, computational multiphysics. So what basically then you know of me, so here at UPF. I have, in terms of contract as a university, I am consolidated, but I would say that in terms of career consolidation, so you never get really consolidated at the university. So you're constantly learning, and then you're constantly then fighting hard then to get your work done. So, and the reason why is, for example, so in my team, so we currently are 19, including myself. I'm the only one with a fixed position. So all the rest of the team, so 18 persons, the group will increase a little bit more to 20, 21. All those people are on a temporary contract that depend on competitive money. So it means that the annual turnover of money that we need to win competitively is about $500,000. Okay, so it's a lot. It's a lot of money. Of course, the size of the groups, I hope it will not continue to increase. It might probably even decrease in the next years, but there is a high risk. There is a huge challenge. You don't want from one year to another to have to say goodbye to 15 people. That would be dramatic for everyone, for the research, for the people. So basically then be able to secure competitive grants is super important. And this is a bit my CV in terms of competitive grants. I have put only the individual grants and then the collaborative grants I got, either as a principal investigator or as a coordinator. So actually it's already started at the predoctoral level with a predoctoral grant from the Spanish ministry. Then I got mobility grant. At that time, mobility grants were not included in the doctoral grant, so you had to apply on top of your salary grant to be able to do a mobility. Then I got a couple of European Marie Curie individual fellowships in order to move around as a postdoctoral researcher, which is super important for the career consolidation, especially here in Spain. And then so I started then to have my first non-individual grants, my first collaborative projects. So I got a first one, European, ICT, Information Communication Technology project in 2010. Then I got another mobility grant, that time, no, not as a trainee anymore, but as a more senior researcher. I went to France. And then, since I was still on precary contracts or at the university, so I was still then fighting to consolidate my own salary. And so I was lucky enough then to get a Ramon y Cajal fellowship short after I joined UPF, which is a 5 years grant as a senior researcher or head of research, whatever you like to call it. And basically then this is the first step then to really consolidation, so that you don't have to worry anymore about your salary. So from here to here, so here I didn't have to worry about, I just had to worry about myself. Here I started to worry about myself plus team people. And then from here to here, so I stopped to have to worry about myself, but just focusing on team people. So this is why I'm saying that consolidation was never really achieved. It can be fun though, huh? Don't misinterpret me. And then, of course, so I got other European projects and Spanish national projects, so technology transfer and public-private grant. And as far as we go, so basically money is secured until 2027, 2029, part of the money. So that's important, so then to do this planification. So that you're not saying within 6 months I'm running out of money for the contracts. Okay, because that's already too late. Every time you apply, so you need several months to come up with an ID, to write your grant, then it goes to review. So you have several months of review of the grant, and then you have the result. In 90% of the cases, you're rejected. So I'm only showing the successful cases, but there are a lot of unsuccessful cases. So average rate of success would be about 10%. So you need to write a lot in order to secure what you need. So that's very important. It sounds like a hell, okay? But actually, it's not. I mean, writing grants. And now I will sound like a total freaky, but it can be fun. Because it's actually, you're doing research while you're writing a grant, and then you will understand a little bit later why. But you're then looking ahead, you're planning research, you're planning what might be the future in 5 years of time ahead, and then you're scratching your head in order to say, so I have an ID, okay, so how can I justify my ID? So you read a lot, and you learn a lot while you're reading, and then you adjust your stuff. And then you say, so, okay, but so how the hell will I do what I want to do? And then you come to the methodology too, and you want to do something credible. So then, again, and you're really tried and to put together something credible. So actually, it's a lot of research. It's not a research where you're executing a code or you're typing a code, etc. But it's really highly conceptual research. So in companies, for example, people might call that technology vigilance, in order then to see what will happen in the next year. So that's a bit this process, and this is cool. So I really encourage to, even if the grant is not successful, each grant writing is actually a personal added value. And not only for yourself, but when you start to be responsible of people, it's also an added value for the group. You write a grant, you might not be successful, but then, so in a few months of writing, so a lot of new ideas, a lot of new knowledge come up, and then you cross that with what you're already doing. And then this is also then the way that you can feed people of your group with new ideas. And then someday, out of these new ideas, money will come. You need to believe into it. So I've not only been writing grants, but I've been also reviewing grants. So I've been very active as a reviewer in the last years, I don't know, maybe 15 past years. And that's also important. That's so important to be active in grant review. So maybe so before the PhD or at the doctoral level, not that much. But as soon as you jump in the wild world of the postdoctoral research, that's super important so that you can see when you read a grant, you're much more critical than when you write a grant. Because you read things and you say, I'm not understanding. How will they do that? I'm not convinced at all. And you start to be very harsh with the others. And that's a good exercise because you still need to learn to be harsh with yourself when you're writing. So maybe it's a bit mean, but criticizing the others is useful to be able to criticize yourself at some point. And this is a big asset in grant writing. There are a lot of different grants. So I've been reviewer for Swiss National Agency, Belgium National Agency at the European level, for the German National Agency, Netherlands, UK, Portugal, Spain, France, New Zealand, and then so private foundations or public universities. It's a nice diversity that also then shows you that there is a kind of unicity in what people are expecting from you to convince them that you're worth the investment, okay? And especially when it comes from public money invested on you, it's really people, so the reviewers really need to see it as an investment. So we're not talking about an investment in a product, we're talking about an investment on public research, on the society, so knowledge, etc., okay? But you need to be very credible for that. Otherwise, people will not invest. And I must be honest, sometimes I have written grants, I didn't get those grants, and I was feeling no way. I was not super happy. But a few years later, rereading the grant I had submitted, so I was telling myself, well, I'm lucky I was not given the money, because I would have had done very misuse of this money. I was not prepared enough. And that's good. External reviewers so could see that. And this is why doing external reviews is important, because you can see that. So there are different, among them, all my review activities. So I would then classify the different grants into 3 groups. So there's mobility grants, there's individual projects and fellowships, and there are then the research projects, okay? And I've put some examples. So mobility grants is relatively easy. So you have 2 types of mobility grants. You would have then junior-based grants, where basically then you would insist on the training aspect of the grant, okay? And you need to explain what you will do. You have a very limited time frame. You need to explain precisely what you will do, and you need to convince people that you will be able to do it during the time of the mobility. And that's super important. So very small grant, extremely focused, okay? But the challenge here is to tell people, I will do that. This is an added value for my training. This is an added value for me. There's also an added value for the people who are hosting me, an added value for the lab who is sending me, okay? And I have a well-established research plan so that it's doable in 3 months or 4 months, okay? So it's not because the mobility grant is little money, we're talking about few thousands of euros, or it's not because it has to be written in 2 or 4 pages that you should overlook the difficulty of that, okay? Because credibility always need to be there. Individual project fellowships, so here they have a list, so Ramon y Cajal, Juan de la Cierva, Marie Sklodowska-Curie, European Research Council, so there are more junior grants and there are more senior grants. So here, it's heavily, in general, CV-based, okay? You're not not only the research you're proposing is being evaluated, but you're also evaluated. So, and we in the academic world, so very often the quality of CV of the people are evaluated against the publications. So I had publications, I hadn't publications, I've been highly cited, I haven't been highly cited, and there's a matrix for that, which is called the H factor. So H factor of 2, it means that you have 2 publications at least cited twice each. H factor of 3, you have 3 publications at least cited 3 times each, okay? So 4 publications, 3 publications with 4 citations and 1 publication with 2 citations, H factor is 3. So that's the matrix of the impact. Some people are super lucky. They are doing their research in a research group that is extremely prolific and with a policy of putting everyone as a co-author. So in general, those people exiting these research groups have an extremely high impact factor for the time spent in research, okay? That might not be your case, and it has never been my case, for example. But that's okay. That's okay. When you present your CV, it's super important to evaluate properly the assets of your CVs, okay? And that's super important. And this is what you're highlighting. So if it's your best interest to highlight the H factor, do that. Highlight it. If it's not in your best interest, don't do the stupidity to put a low H factor and try to justify yourself. Okay, that's definitively not a good approach to convince people that you're good. So you forget about the H factor, okay, and then you try to capitalize on what you deem you're good at. Okay, so you might have patents, you might have transferred technologies with dedicated funds for technology transfers where you have played an important role. You might have might be very good at producing open science. So you have generated a lot of repositories that are a great asset into research. You might have done a lot of training of the others, so high-level trainings, workshops, summer school. Don't want to make advertisement, but and etc. So these are a lot of assets you might have. You might have participated also at a very early moment in the co-supervision of PhD thesis or of master students. Okay, so when you have spent 10 years in research, maybe you don't put, so after the PhD, maybe you don't put master students anymore. You would put the PhD thesis. But when you're competing for those grants where the level of seniority is very low after the PhD, I mean, each master students or final grade students you have supervised is an asset, etc., etc. And then you have the research project. So research project might be individual based and consortium based. In general, in the research project, and there are untold parts of the story. So for consortium projects, it's very clear that this will be collaborative, okay? So within the implementation of the project, so the strengths of the collaboration and what emerges, the fact that what emerges out of the collaboration is of greater value to what exists at the individual level, so has to be very well highlighted. And then in research project, you have the individual projects. And here, it's a bit dangerous because you feel that it's individual. So you know you can go alone. Typically, the Spanish research from the Spanish Research Agency. And, but they're seeking, so the funding agencies are looking forward to seeing you contributing to public research. So basically, if you present a project and you say, I'm the only one in the project, and I will only work with 2 or 3 of my PhD students that are already in the group, that's true. That's an individual project. But it's not an individual project that will be evaluated as a great added value for the community, okay? Because it could be perfectly an individual project. And people might tell you, okay, So if you're relatively junior, so Marie Curie individual fellowship, or if you're more senior, so then you might want to apply then to a European fellowship, or you might want to apply to Ramon y Cajal in Spain if you're a bit senior. So you need to be very careful with that, meaning that research project is always, so individual project is an investment very often on your personal training. So with the idea that through your personal training, by consolidating yourself, you will become an asset for research projects that aim to be an added value for the society, okay? So here in the individual, you need to be very careful, and then you need to prove that actually your project will go far beyond the individual. So for example, for national Spanish project, so you have what is called the research team. So the research team, you need to put, in general, more people than yourself, okay? And where then the people will commit. They don't need to be people from your institution, they might be people from a hospital, they might be, but you need to do that. So in general, so spot when you decide then to apply for a grant, so basically then you target one of those three groups, okay? And then you need to read the rules of the grant, okay? Read it in the first person. Don't ask other people to read it for you and tell you the story, because you might miss important points. And it's super important also to identify individuals who wrote those grants and got those grants. Not only one, because there are individual specificities, but several ones. This is very important, okay? And then in both those projects, there are training-based grants and research-based grants. And here there's confusion, because training-based grants, we are always talking about research. So that should be training that is based on a novel and credible research. So even if it's training-based, actually you add then the training aspect, or you integrate the training aspect to the research aspect, okay? But people will not simply pay you the participation to a summer school, for example, okay? So again, this is a confusion that also is very often dangerous. So the research project should always be here. And then this is the last slide. So in general, either for research project or for training projects, what you have is that you have these 4 fields that are always present, okay? And for training-based research, you might have also the training bullet point that comes out. So there is excellence, method, impact, and implementation, okay? In excellence, what I'm often reading when I'm reviewing projects is people who have excellent ideas, okay? But it seems that they are totally isolated from the world. So I recently reviewed the project. The idea sounded super great, but until the page 12 of the proposal, there was not a single citation, okay? So needless to say that I even didn't bother to evaluate the method, the impact of the implementation, because that part was not credible, okay? So when you talk about excellence, so it's the excellence of your ID, it's your excellence of your overall objective, and it's your excellence of your specific objectives. And then your specific objective leads you to the method, okay? And the excellence of the ID is the novelty of the ID. How can you defend the novelty of an ID if you don't give a good overview of what others are doing, okay? So you identify a problematic, okay? And then you need to jump very quickly to what others are doing, okay? Because you need to position yourself with respect to others. And this is where the excellence of the project, not your excellence, the excellence of the project will be evaluated. And then out of that must arrive then a very sound and well-documented specific objective that will allow the reviewer to duly evaluate then the added value of what you're proposing. And then you come up with a specific objective that are the unique introduction then to your specific methods. Then people will understand why you will take this methodological approach, okay? So there is a lot of confusion in general with method and implementation, okay? And actually in the proposals, you need to divide the two, okay? So method is basically how you will target methodologically your specific objectives. And all your specific objectives altogether need to contribute to a general objective, okay? So here's a description of the method you will put here is basically the overall methodology. So I will use machine learning, I will use finite element modeling, I will use whatsoever data science, and how will I connect then? How will I connect then all the methodological aspects, okay, in order then to achieve my specific objectives? The specific objectives must be always measurable, okay, and then they're often associated with what people like to call key performance indicators, okay, so that the reviewer can really judge quantitatively whether you will be able, and then during the project sometimes you have intermediate reviews of the progress of the project, and then people then should be able to evaluate so where you are, no? Have you achieved 5%? Have you achieved 80%? And at which time of the project you are, okay? So basically then the method here is an integrative description of the method where you also will refer then to what others are doing in order then to show that your methodology is sound, your methodology is novel, and can overall, so connected together, achieve your specific objective in a quantified way. That's super important, in a quantified way, okay? So I skip impact by the moment. And then implementation. Implementation is how you will organize your proposed methods, so along the time during the duration of the project, because it has to be credible, okay? So for example, if you say, I will do typical thing, no? I will do clinical, I will exploit the data from a clinical study, okay? And you're asking a 2 years project, but the patient recruitment lasts 18 months, so 1.5 years. And then all the rest of your method, so the analytical part, the engineering part, so hangs on the data. And you spend 1.5 years to collect the data. How can you pretend in 6 months, basically, to do all the analytical work, okay? So here, that's the implementation. This is where your organization needs to be sound, okay? So you have a time distribution of everything. You don't need in the implementation to repeat the methods or to do a lot of details. You have explained that here. Don't repeat yourself here. That's okay. It's just then you organize the work and you define what you call deliverables and milestones. So deliverables basically are intermediate results that are an asset that can be exploitable, that can contribute to the key performance indicator, to the quantification of your progress, and in general to scientific production or asset for the society. It means that you shouldn't have only a final result, because if you fail to have this final result, it's a lot of years and money that have been lost, okay? So you need to show that you will have intermediate exploitable results. So even if the general objective is not met, and it often happens in research, so you have intermediate objectives that can be made, and then here you will make basically a planification of what we call these deliverables, okay? And then milestones would be then decision points in the project that would result from a combination of deliverables, okay? So, and that brings you closer to your final objective. And then the impact, very often, people just try to bullshit the reviewers, okay? Don't do that. Yeah, it will have a great impact, then for the patients, it will have a great impact for the society, etc., etc. You're not quantifying anything. There is nothing in your methods. There is nothing in your KPI that supports those claims. and this is a very, very, very common. So I recently reviewed 17 research projects. Out of these 17 research projects, only 2 had a well-quantified impact section. So that's a very, very common mistake. So when you target the impact, you need to target the impact according to what you will tangibly get in the project, or what you expect to be tangibly get, okay? And then you need to quantify this impact. So here you need to be a bit creative. Huh? They say, if I get that and in the project and it can be successfully exploited, and then you have to explain how you will exploit it. So it's measured to maximize the impact, okay? So I can expect then to have this impact of reducing by so many percent then the burden of one disease, or improve by that much percent the success of a therapy, etc. So you understand how impact then can be quantified. You can even push it to the next level if you want to be then, if you are close to transfer, that you can even translate that into money. Sometimes you cannot because you're too far away from technology transfer, but sometimes you can. Okay, and then with this, I just leave it here, and for the discussion. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for the great discussion.